Hello and welcome to Natural Organic Changes. Thank you so much for joining us today. So as our topic says, obviously we're talking about cookware. Is our cookware safe? Do you know what's in the cookware you use every day? I must apologize because this topic is such a big topic and it's going to take a little while. But if I do spend time as I need, we'll probably be here for over an hour. But I'm going to bring this into bite-sized, digestible bits so that we can actually use it and apply it in our everyday life, because that's the whole purpose of this whole channel, to help everyday people use this information and apply it effectively. First and foremost, we're going to look at aluminum pans. So these are aluminum pans. They're shiny. They're in pretty much every house. We grew up having them in my home. My parents, my grandparents used them. They're really cheap and easily accessible. Next, we're going to look at coated pans. So these are like non-stick pans. First on our list is this one. As you can see, it's got a few peelings in there, and it's a common phenomenon with non-stick pans. This is a Teflon coated pan. There is an issue with Teflon though. Teflon has been known to be a neurotoxin and actually is a carcinogen. So studies have shown that long-term use of Teflon when exposed to high heat, which is obviously when we cook, releases fumes that can cause cancer and that also can cause diseases. The next sort of non-stick cookware that we use, generally found in the shops, are what we call anodized pans. So these are aluminum bases, but they're chemically binded to oxygen or some sort of oxide that prevents it from sticking and prevents reaction with food. It's quite a nice metal, but over time it does scratch, and actually the metal underneath can be exposed. Not necessarily underneath, but the metal behind the oxide gets exposed to food and then ends up leaching into our food. I'll go into a little bit more detail about why we don't want that happening. The next one we have here are these ones. They call them ceramic coatings, so they're meant to be a bit more sort of safer. However, they're still new in the market. Research isn't so in-depth in it, but it seems to have better wrap than Teflon, so people tend to use it. The only other concern most people find is that over time, the non-sticky property starts wearing. So I've had this for just over a year. It hasn't got much scratches in it, but it's beginning to it's beginning to stick food. So that's one thing you should be aware of when you're going for something like that. And these other one, they're really fancy new pans. They're called like rock pans. They look good. They have good reps according to the sales. However, be cautious because they're so new on the market. We don't know of any sort of ill effects, and with time, we'll get to find out. All I could say is I've only had this also for just over a year, and I do have scratches in it. So the integrity of this coating, I can't verify, but I'm not very comfortable using it if it's already started scratching within a year, and I don't use metal spoons or things in them. The other one, which is our old trusted stainless steel. This again is a very common metal used for pans. If you're investing in stainless steel, which I personally prefer in some cooking, I would say go for a good quality grade stainless steel. There are different ones, there's 18/10. They're different properties, but go for a good quality heavy metal. You also look at the base of the stainless steel. So most stainless steels are actually they have a sandwich formed because you have another metal in between two layers of stainless steel. That is just to help the heat conduction. So when you're getting stainless steel and you use it over time, you might end up scratching down to the metal in between, which could be aluminum, and it could release other heavy metals into your food, so be aware of it. I'll go to the next one, which is cast iron. So here is an enamel cast iron, which is basically a coated cast iron with some sort of coating called enamel, which is glass. It is inert, it doesn't react with our food so long as we do not scratch into it. It's very durable as well if you get a good quality one that is produced without contaminants and from a good company. But the drawback is it's very expensive and it is very heavy. So generally this is what you have as your cast iron pots. They come in various sizes and beautiful colors, and so I love them because I can match them to what I like. Then you have also cast iron, but this black inside, although you do have some enamel coating that's black, you also have the one that is uncoated. So this is uncoated, it is raw iron inside. The reason behind this, you call this season it. So you season it over time with oil and heat, and it forms a nice coating which is called the panacea. That coating prevents food from sticking to it, so it is really useful for like baking or even frying or broiling things. But be careful if you use it with sort of, you know, acid foods like tomatoes and sauces and soups and liquids, because it can actually leach excess iron into your food, and that can be toxic as well. Finally, last but not the least, we're going to look at copper. This is really pretty, very beautiful. Professional chefs use them. It also has a metal base, which is good for like using it in an induction hob, because it helps it work and helps heat conduction as well. There's so many adulterated ones out there, so when you're buying one, make sure it's actually real copper and not just painted over, because that will release the paint and the, you know, chemicals into your food as well. Now, why are we actually looking at cookware? Why this topic? It's because of something called pH, which is the hydrogen potential. It's a scale we use to measure acidity and alkalinity in water-soluble substances, which is, you know, food generally is water-soluble apart from oil. So oil is not water-soluble, consequently it has no pH value. So if I'm frying in, say, aluminum, I have no concern about pH unless water from the food is going into that pan. The only other thing though is when you cook, generally foods that's cooked is mainly acidic. So the whole buzz about acidic food and acid diets, foods generally produce acids when it's cooked, and a large proportion of the foods we cook are acidic. So if you are cooking in a pan, say aluminum for instance, it is a very sensitive metal, so it reacts easily to acidic foods. If you cook in it, all I'll advise is that we try and limit exposure to acidic food. So if I'm making a stew, rather than using an aluminum pan, I'm going to use stainless steel if I had one, or go for a cast iron pan. If I had none of those and I had to cook my stew in my aluminum pan, I'll suggest cooking it and taking it out. Try not to store food in your pans, whichever one it is, because you're exposing it for longer periods. You know, you're exposing your food to that metal, and toxins can leach into your food, lead and other contaminants, and that's where we have issues. Now, what's this about aluminum? Because there's a big debate out there about, does it cause Alzheimer's, which is a form of dementia? Apparently, studies have proven that it does, because it's a neurotoxin. It can be stored in the brain over long periods. But to be honest, the truth is, it is not as terrible as they say, because let's face it, our grandparents, our forefathers have used aluminum for years, and they've actually even used raw cast iron for years without having this ill effect of aluminum like we see today. But remember, our environment was not as toxic as it is today, so it's a combination of different factors. Also, and last but not the least, whatever cookware you use, I would suggest you invest in a good non-stick or a wooden spatula, or in one of these sort of, you know, plastic spoons. I wouldn't say plastic, but I'll say go for silicone based. They do not scratch your pans, and because scratching with metal will cause metal to leach into your food, obviously, over time. And also it damages your pots. Using abrasives, scrubbing your pans will damage them over time, and also release metals and release the coating, which we're trying to avoid. Personally, in my home, we use quite a few of these different pans. I have just tried these to see how effective they are. We generally go for the cast iron with enamel coating, using this to fry or broil, and these I've had for so many years. So this is my stainless steel one. I use it to make like cooking things that are non-acidic, or even stews, and they're fine so long as I don't store them in. I hope you have found this video informative. I hope you've learned something. If you have, give us a thumbs up, like this video, and share with your loved ones, share with your friends. Sorry about the length of the video, and sorry about the pace. I'm just new to all this recording, but I hope you learned something. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about why natural organic changes. What's the driving force? What's the whole reason behind the whole, vision. I hope you subscribe so you can get updates and you can hear more about the movement, and I hope it's helpful for your everyday life. Thank you so much once again, and have a lovely time. Bye bye.